Running Sentences presents Work, Work, and More Work. Part 2. Work Issues. The project continues along its merry, slow pace. Bruno does his best, but his two workers, well, he wants more out of them. This story is written and narrated by Michael Henry. It is a work of fiction, so any names, characters, businesses, events, and situations within the story are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to real people, situations, characters, businesses, events, and/or fictional businesses, characters, events, and so on is purely coincidental. Copyright 2025, Michael Henry, all rights reserved. Lindsay stepped out of the elevator so that she could head out for lunch. She found herself headed towards the security area to check out when she spotted Jess being corralled out the front doors. Pausing, she watches for a moment, letting a few other people go by first. "You okay?" Oh, fine. That man with Jess, though, Miss Security Officer?" The security officer said, looking over. "The guy who hates to work and never seems to get anything done?" "Oh, him. That guy was one of the higher-ups. Big shot who works here, I think." "Jess worked with him?" "Well, as far as I know, Jess has worked with pretty much everybody here. I think that guy, though, there is something different going on between them. Oh, apparently it is my lunch break, as Marleif is here. See you around." The security guard said this and then left Lindsay standing there all by herself. Having not gone anywhere for lunch and ate whatever he could scrounge up from the break rooms, Bruno sat in their meeting room office space. He kept looking over the paperwork as the door opened and in came Lindsay, followed by Jess. "You took too long for lunch, and you weren't here all this morning, Jess." Well, work required me to update things with security. It isn't my fault they took all morning and the printers for the IDs take a long time to do their job. He looks over Jess very carefully. "I doubt that is entirely truthful, but we need to get back to work. So do that now. And why did you take so long, Lindsay?" "My lunchtime is my lunchtime. I will not accept it being cut short," she responded. "Well, from now on, you're getting it cut short." "Oh, why, boss?" Jess asked. "I have received a note from the bosses who have made me aware of a few things that they want us to be aware of and to know that we have to do." "And one of them involves our lunches?" Lindsay asked. "No, they're making me aware of the time scale for this project." "Oh, brilliant. They're going to rush through this project as fast as they can," Jess muttered dryly. Lindsay then glanced over to Jess, with a worry on her face, to which Bruno shook his head at them. They were worrying about the wrong things. If they did this right, then there would be big plans for them within the company. But no, these two were more worried about themselves. "Do you think they're trying to get rid of us?" Lindsay asked to Bruno. "Who knows with the higher-ups? They do what they want when they want. They could have fired me a long time ago, yet they keep me around, and I still don't understand it. Well, maybe. No, I don't understand it," Jess pointed out before Bruno could speak. "That's right. I saw you leaving with a higher-up this afternoon to head to lunch. Who was that?" "You don't want to know or get involved in that mess. It's an ex-boss, and he's just doing whatever he wants." "You have access to the bosses?" "No, I have no such connections. I've worked with them, and they've worked with me, but we don't really have any connection," Jess said to Bruno. "Then why did he want to meet with you?" "To talk about the work we're doing here, Lindsay." "I do hope you did not reveal the secret project, Jess." "There was nothing to talk about. What he was interested in making sure that I was doing my work, okay?" "And what did you tell him?" I was working on various things, Lindsay. That's what I told him.
Wait, does he want you to keep working on your other work from before this project?
Bruno asked. There was a pause from Jess, as an appearance of really trying to think that over, and if it would potentially help or harm him if he said something that, affirmative or negative. Bruno cursed himself for bringing up the thought, and now kept circling around that man's mind. It would have to be dealt with before it went any further. Potentially. I'll have to keep working on stuff, which may take me away from this.
Denied. This is our first and only priority, Jess. I will not allow you to do work for anyone else.
But you would have to get that approved by the higher-ups, Bruno, and we already have a higher-up telling us what we need to concentrate on.
Oh, don't worry about it. I have everything under control. This is a simple matter, Lindsay. Trust me on this, and get to work reading those papers.
Are you sure about that?
I will send a message to the bosses that will sort all of this out, okay?
Just do your work. You don't want to go talk to them yourself? Jess inquired.
Any messages go over better than constant interruptions to their jobs and day. My job is to manage what gets to them and what doesn't. They don't need to hear about this right now. Now, can we get to work?
Meeting isn't much work if you ask me.
I didn't ask you, Lindsay. Now please read.
Neither looked happy about the order as they sat down, far away from him and far from each other. Page by page of documents on company morale and happiness flittered by with little to nothing of it sticking with anyone. The three were done for the day and trudged all the way over to the elevators. There they waited for it to arrive and found themselves joined shortly by Mikhail. If it isn't my lovely little team. The three stare over at the boss, unsure of what else to do or say at the moment.
Oh, sir, that's good to see you, but, we are working hard on your assignment, so, did you need something?
I was never a moment's doubt that you would do that, Bruno. Work hard, I mean. That's why we assigned this to you.
Then why are you here, sir? Is there some sort of new directive you wish for us to take, or something else?
No, I need to talk to Miss Lindsay, if you don't mind. With the ding, the elevator announced that it had arrived, and Jess looked at Lindsay for a second, but with a mere nod, got on board. Lindsay then watched as Bruno took a few moments to decide if he should or shouldn't go, but a stern look from Mikhail sent him scurrying onto the elevator. It was soon gone from sight, and she turned to their new boss. Is there something I can do for you? Work better and harder. I already do that. Not enough for certain bosses who want to see you do more, Mikhail responded. Well, they can tell me themselves, can't they? They don't want to be seen talking to lower staff. It would set expectations. Well, we can't have that now, can we? She replied dryly. No, this business will conduct itself with proper standards despite who you happen to know, Miss Lindsay. Do not forget that we all work hard here to maintain things, and the same is expected of you. How could I ever forget such a thing? Obviously you did forget, otherwise you wouldn't be here having this conversation about not working hard enough. So you're here to be a cheerleader with threats instead of help? She questioned. Why did you put me on this little project, or why was I assigned to it? Because there are expectations of you. Just like the expectations of Bruno and of Jess, she retorted, getting annoyed at this conversation. Yes, those are different from yours, but there are expectations, and your goal is now to stand out and help this company. Otherwise, she glared at him after saying this. The company is going through many changes, and we will be cutting jobs. Yours will certainly be looked at very hard if you don't stand out more. I somehow doubt that one bit. She gave him a dirty look as another elevator dinged, announcing its arrival. Taking a step towards it, she found that Mikhail was following her. Do not doubt it one bit. Those that are protecting you will also find themselves on the chopping block if you do not meet expectations. You are mistaken, Mr. McHale. There is no one protecting me. You may have gotten the wrong person. All I am to this business is a good worker, which I doubt you can afford to lose. If you don't mind, I would like to go home. Remember, you have been warned. She shook her head at him as she stepped onto the elevator, and he hurried off. Jess was ready to leave, to head home and stop thinking about work. Bruno, though, had stopped him at the front doors and pulled him off to the side. What is it, Bruno?
Do you think that Miss Lindsay has some sort of connections with the higher-ups?
I have no idea. I don't care. Why do you care?
If my workers like you have connections with the higher-ups, it potentially makes things easier for us if we have contacts that we can rely on and, contact this done and, usher us through this project with a little less red tape.
Well, you would have to ask Lindsay if she has connections. I don't have any other than a few annoying bosses who won't leave me alone and won't listen to me. And, here she comes, so ask her for yourself. He was about to step out the front door, but Bruno caught his arm and pulled him back as Lindsay was approaching. She looked at them with raised eyebrows, questioning them without saying anything.
Miss Lindsay, I think we need to have a little chat.
What about, boss? He wants to know what your connections are with the big bosses, Jess said before Bruno could answer. I don't have any. She was rolling her eyes in frustration upon saying this. Great, now that is settled, can I go home? Pulling his arm free of Bruno's grasp, he glared at his boss as the man looked more nervous than happy about things. It was an unusual look that didn't suit the prodigy of the company, who always seemed eager to do the right thing.
No, you cannot leave. We have to settle this matter since both of you are talking to the higher-ups, yet you claim to have no connection to them. It's very, very weird.
Your boss, McHale, wanted to inform me that I needed to be better in the eyes of the company. They have expectations of me. That's all that went on. Similar in my case, though he also told me that I would probably be fired anyway, so... Jess added to Lindsay's comment.
You two still talk to them about things, though, and I think we can use that to our advantage, so I'm not about to surrender it.
How do you want to use that to your advantage, Bruno?
I am looking to save this project, which right now feels like a dead end from all of its expectations. I think there's something more that needs to be done, and I'm going to do it, and find it.
Oh, looks like you're coming around my type of thinking then, Bruno, aren't you?
No, Jess, I am not. This is merely a challenge that they've put in front of me to prove myself worthy of their admiration. Both of your connections will help us get around that.
I cannot help you with any of this. I don't know what problems they are having. I don't know what's going on anymore, Lindsay offered. And neither can I. Sorry, boss, but that's a dead-end road you're trying to go down. Only you have connections with the bosses, thanks to being loved. And, might I add, you seem to be reluctant to even lean on them to get what you want, Lindsay then pointed out.
I'm no fool. I do that and I will lose whatever influence I have amongst them for leaning on them. Something like that cannot be idly spent on something small and insignificant, and right now we don't have anything to spend it on.
Jess shrugs, reaches for the door handle, more than eager to just get out of here so he doesn't have to worry about any of this. It was a problem for tomorrow. Bruno got aboard the elevator the next morning, tiredly. He'd spent a good few hours after work looking into more paperwork than he cared to. It was for a good thing, but his mind had blanked out after a while, and now he found himself standing next to the company's CEO, Miss Barley, a stern-faced woman who rarely talked to any of the workers. Unsure if he should say anything, and his mind still buzzy and fuzzy from not getting enough sleep, Bruno fidgeted in his little spot in the elevator. Please, stop doing that. It isn't healthy or wise to keep moving aboard an elevator. Opening his mouth to protest, he failed to find his voice and closed it again. You're the man they set to the task, aren't you?
I'm sorry, what, Miss Barley?
The improvement of morale and work.
Oh, that. Yes.
Why do you sound so down about this glorious project that I've personally ordered? 1,001 thoughts sprang to Bruno's mind as a result. All were trying to come to grips with that and figure out what he could ask for and what he should say or shouldn't. There wasn't much that felt right to ask for at this moment, but this was an opportunity he'd been talking about yesterday, so it would feel foolish not to jump on it.
It's just that it doesn't have much direction to really go on or go towards.
No, I wanted it that way.
If you have too much direction, then
you're already on a predestined course. That wouldn't do when the company needs a new direction. You are steering the vehicle. Do not steer us wrong, Mr. Bruno. At a loss for words, Bruno did his best to keep up and keep thinking of things to say. It didn't feel right, and he really needed to speak out, though.
But without some sort of direction, though, I cannot. My hopes for delivering this project on time will dwindle greatly.
Figure it out. You'll get more money the second you show some sort of results. I don't care how you get them, but show them to me and soon. But if I just had a little more... No! Get things done and soon, Mr. Bruno. The elevator dinged, announcing that they had arrived on some level. Bruno was, in his frightened panic, failed to look to see if it was his floor or not. It didn't matter as the CEO, Barley, stepped off and the doors shut on him, leaving him to stew in his thoughts. Sitting in the meeting room for the last of the morning was turning into a waste of time. As far as Lindsay could tell, Bruno was stuck in a loop of his own thoughts ever since he'd gotten here, and she included Jess in getting here, though a few minutes late, and he'd been staring off in nothingness. Jess, do you think there's something wrong with Mr. Bruno? Should we report this to the higher-ups? I don't see why we should. Our work is to currently read these papers. Until directed otherwise, I shall fill my time with this. Right, but usually Bruno orders us about. You don't want to spend your day reading, doing nothing. You'd rather be yelled at that you're doing things wrong. The man is a prodigy for this company, but he lacks leadership in getting things beyond himself motivated. She shook her head in annoyance. The man was right about Bruno, but he was doing things very crassly, when saying it very crassly. It didn't help to ease things in this work matter, especially when everybody seemed to be refusing to understand simple things. There has to be a reason for Bruno's behavior. Maybe he had a chat with one of the higher-ups to explain their expectations to him. That's what he was on about yesterday, so... But he already knew what they wanted from him. Why would they shake him into a mumbling mess of words that we don't really understand? I was merely offering the suggestion because I don't know and I don't care. Don't involve me in his drama. Jess was making a hand motion towards Bruno, who just kept staring off to the nothingness. If you don't get involved, this project might never end, Jess. It will probably end sooner, if anything. Can't have a leader who won't do anything, and they'll probably assign someone new. To their surprise, Bruno slapped his hand down on the table, catching both of them up as they looked up. We need help. Did you finally realize that 3 people working on something like this isn't going to work, Bruno? You mean the 2 of us, since you do nothing, Jess? That isn't what I'm talking about, though. Our problems will be fixed by computers, which we will feed these documents and then they will spit out the information we need. That might work, but then what? Lindsay asked. We then comb through that data. It's easy and simple. Much faster. Bruno jumped up from his seat, and before they could act much, he was sprinting towards the door. Both watched him leave and then waited to see if he would come back and demand that they go with him. A minute passed before they turned to one another again. Do you think... No, I do not think he wants our help, and he will soon be rushing back in here when he finds his plan is crap and is falling apart. Is it crap? Yes, we did internet searches for information, which is the same thing he'll be doing. All these papers that the boss has offloaded onto us are the same sort of thing that is on the internet. Alright, yeah, that makes sense. Geez, for a prodigy and a good solid worker, you two do not understand the basics of things. And what's that supposed to mean, Jess? That the simplest thing flew over your head. This is all busy work. I don't know why, and I'm not sure I want to find out why, but we've been sidetracked to work on something that is a dead end. Lindsay frowns deeply at the comment and decides not to give Jess much more effort. Reading these papers was much more important. After waiting for a little while, Bruno had been allowed into his boss's office. Mikhail sat at his desk studying papers that he would then put into the outgoing box and move on to the next one. He carried on for a few more moments before looking up to Bruno. What can I do for you today?
I need permission to hire another worker.
Whatever for, you have the best of the best. Bruno fought back the urge to point out that no, he did not have good workers. He only had one, and there was doubt if she was good or not.
None of us have the required computer literacy to accomplish our goals.
Mr. Jess is capable of doing what you need to do, if that's what you're saying.
No, I need to build a program so that I can search the internet for what I need, and for what the company needs.
His boss fixed him with an odd stare, one that went on and on, just boring into him. There are already many search engines on the internet that do that sort of thing for you. Plus, I did a favor by having a lot of things printed out in advance for you the last couple of days, and then delivered to your meeting room office.
We need access to things quicker, though. This project rests on some speed since the CEO said that's what she wanted, and we need change. The faster we can give her that, give her what she wants, the better it is for all of us.
You can request all you want, and go talk to the CEO if you feel shorted, but I have provided all the things I can for you. It is up to you to make things better.
You don't understand what I'm saying, Mikhail.
No, I get what you want. I can't give it to you as I have no resources to give.
I'll go to the CEO if you don't.
Please do, Bruno. We'll then see which side she agrees with. She might tell you to your face she wants this quickly, but with no results on your end so far. Bruno found himself growling and then stomped back out the door. Jess stood in a break room looking at the little snack bag he'd gotten to tide himself over until he could leave for the day. It had been a day of reading and not accomplishing much. A payday, of the usual, he figured, but even he had to admit it would have been nice to feel like something had been accomplished.
Oh, Mr. Jess, it's been a while since we've run across one another.
He glances up to see the head of HR department strolling into the room. With the way she was looking at him, he got the feeling that she was looking for him. Miss Liza, what a surprise. What have I done wrong this time? Would you believe me if I said nothing you did was wrong? No, he replied dryly. So direct. That's what gets you in trouble, you know. But I am being truthful that you've done nothing wrong. Then what is it you wanted to talk to me about, and you seem to be seeking me out? People don't come to find me unless they have something to say. There is a unique issue I'm having which you might be able to help me with. I'm rather busy these days. I know, you only do one thing at a time, but rather methodically, and that gets accomplished, and I think you can make an exception for me. Can I now? We all need to make sacrifices from time to time for the betterment of everyone, and I can help you by making things, any potential dismissals take longer and a while, you know, tit for tat. Hold on a moment, he replied and then continued. No, we don't first off need to make sacrifices, and what are you asking of me? What is this situation that only I can attend to? Or are we pretending that only I can do it? Well, Liza said, looking at him carefully. And is this because you think I don't mind getting in trouble with higher-ups? Yes, that does play a part in all of this, but it isn't the only reason, or even the major reason, why I'm doing it. Fine, whatever. Just say what it is so we can all move on. There's a secret going around the office that I need to know about. Why would you think that I would know or could get it out of anyone? And what kind of secret are we even discussing? The closure of certain offices. You'd have to explain more than that. Which offices? What about them, Liza? The HR lady gave a little huff of frustrated noise. If I knew that, I wouldn't be asking someone to sniff around. And you're asking me to do this because you think people won't mind? I fear the opposite reaction is going to happen. No one trusts me or wants to talk to me, especially about secrets. That is where you are wrong. They think you don't care about things. They will talk about whatever they want. Jess found himself shaking his head no. This lady had come up with a problem and solution all on her own, and anything he did would not likely be listened to by her. At least not when it came to divulging the truth. You have a different problem to deal with. Why would I even do this? To get you out of this job on this weird project? And, potentially making things disappear? I want that? He questioned. I've heard some stuff about the project that would make a lot of people want to turn away and not want anything to do with it. Why then assign a so-called prodigy within the company to it? They love the fool who works hard and doesn't know when to stop. Even good workers have expiration dates. Sometimes they run out before they're put to a good use, and you need a good reason to just move on from them. Oh, I don't buy that, Liza. Layoffs are a much simpler and cleaner solution for someone who you don't want around anymore. There is no way they'd waste all this effort on him of all people. Shows what you know about business. Simple is never simple. Now help me out. Give me a better idea of what you're looking for and I might be able to help. People are making noise about the second and third floor being let go and fired, she said. Oh, I see. The HR department is on those floors, aren't they? Afraid of having everything automated on you? HR is the one thing that cannot be automated no matter how hard anyone tries. He shook his head and regretted her words. The lady wasn't going to listen to his comments on that matter. Well, if I come across anything along the lines of my work, I'll make sure to send it your way. Make sure it is related to what I want. I do not want to see whatever you think is relevant in my email or manila folder that suddenly appears on my desk. I do not need to be answering questions from my staff about those types of things. In a click of her heels, she storms off. The three had been called into the CEO's office, a nice space with windows looking out to the nearby city. It wasn't special in any shape or form, but the place actually was used for work. Barley sat behind her desk. The three stood at attention, looking like lost children, in front of her, trying not to look like they didn't belong. Do you know why I've called all of you here? No, if you could explain, please, Miss CEO. Mr. Bruno and the group, I apparently have to explain to the lot of you what your job actually is. Jess nodded along, to which Lindsay elbowed him to get him to stop. Right now wasn't the time for such shenanigans, as much as she wanted to join it. What would you say that is, then, boss? She found herself asking. You three, and only you three, are on a fact-finding mission that will help evolve this company. She pauses dramatically for this moment. I need you to find the best way to make workers work. Isn't that what we're already trying to do? Just asked, confused. And doing it as great a speed as possible and as we can muster. What do you expect of us? Lindsay added, equally confused. Hard workers, Miss Lindsay, who know their place, and do not question things. This needs to be done in a hurry, but quietly. And we are doing that, Miss Barley. We do all that you want us to do. Then why did you come to me with some requests, Bruno? Lindsay gives another look to Jess as they try to figure out what was going on. He didn't look too interested in this, but with a shake of his head.
We met by accident in the elevator this morning, Bruno started to explain. There was no great plan by me to run into her, and my workers can tell you I was against such an idea, Bruno said, trying to explain to everybody.
Slightly against. You did try to run off at one point to try and get some help from the bosses.
I was trying to get things moving along, Jess and Lindsay, and it would improve the work environment of our project. That is all I was trying to do.
You're saying this was all merely a test to see how things potentially worked, Bruno?
Yes, exactly, Jess. That is exactly what I'm trying to do.
There were quite a few beads of sweat that Lindsay noticed popping up on Bruno's forehead. It was close enough to her that she wondered if she should say something, since it was probably easily noticeable by the boss. You think such lies are believable, Bruno?
It is the truth, Miss Barley.
It's the after effect to whatever you were originally planning. Not the worst thing to have since in your back pocket, but also not something you should lead with when your boss sees through your ideas. I'm sorry? CEO Barley turns her attention away from Bruno, putting it on Lindsay for a second, followed by a glare at Jess. Lindsay's eyes followed to make sure she was seeing the same thing. And are either of you sorry? I apologize if I came across harshly, Miss Boss. I'm not. There's nothing to be sorry for or about. I'm here to do a job, and I will point out any problems we have along the way, from the bosses on down. Isn't that what you're after, Miss Barley? Please call me the CEO. Fine, Miss CEO. A bit, yes. But as a team, not all of this running around raising suspicion that something is going on. But isn't that your fault, though? You set all this up in secret and didn't expect that it would be talked about? I mean, I've heard rumors that departments are being closed and the staff are freaking out because of it. She glares towards him but nods. Sometimes that can be a good thing. What I want right now, though, is for you three people to get back to work. Stop bothering the higher-ups with your problems. I will give you a slight increase in your budget, but it will not be enough to bring on another person. Do you understand? This job must be done by you three. I have expectations of all of you. Her glance goes over all of them, and Lindsay fights back a shiver that wanders over her spine. Bruno was bowing deeply, and then began to retreat, which Lindsay decided to follow without bowing. Only Jess remains there for a few seconds, giving off a fat sigh, and then turned and tromped after them. End of part 2 of Work, Work, and More Work. Thank you for listening.